I love being involved with people who are passionate about what they're doing. You know what I mean? And like, I try when I can to help, you know?
Yeah.
And that I think makes me probably feel best.
Yeah.
Moreover, any like awards have won or whatever, it's like doing something for some other person that has allowed them to succeed. Like that's fucking awesome.
For me personally, also.
You're a saint. The Doing the Work podcast is brought to you by some amazing sponsors who we're very grateful for that allow us to do this amazing podcast that brings you information that helps you to be more connected and be more healthy and helps you grow in your life. Strive Strength and Conditioning empowers people to be happier, healthier, and more successful in life. They help you to crush it in the gym so you can crush it even better outside of the gym. They've got top-notch coaching and an even better community. If you're looking to up your game in your fitness or your healthy habits, this is the place to go. Check them out at www.strivebastrop.com.
Karl, I am super pumped to have you on this show. You were so many things about you are just like important to me. One, you and your wife Sam are the very first friends we had here in Austin. You worked with my wife Anne Marie, and since then, just getting to know you, witnessing your craft, your trade, and like how you approach art and design and business has just been like a pleasure for me to witness. And when I first started this podcast, you were like right at the top of the list of people that I wanted to eventually sit down and talk with. So I'm so pumped to be here with you, man. And
it's very kind.
Yeah. So thank you for being on the show.
Excited to be here, man. Just ramble.
Yeah. So on your Instagram, in your description of you, or of your business, I guess, you say brand design and visual problem solving.
Yeah.
And I love that term, visual problem solving.
Right.
Where did you come up with that?
I mean, I think in design, it's like you kind of have to have a focus, right? Like there's all this, are you an identity designer? Do you work in advertising? Are you packaging designer? And at the end of the day, it's all just problems that people have that are visual problems, right?
Right.
It's like they've got all this business acumen, they've got a product, they've got a problem they're trying to solve, and they need to like solve that visually. So really like visual problem solving was a way that I could describe what I do that didn't really pigeonhole me into like one thing. I wanted to make sure that people knew like whatever the visual problem you have, it doesn't matter what it is, I can solve it. I can figure it out. I got you.
Yeah.
Like I love brand building, which is why it's kind of a double statement, right? Like there's a brand component of it.
Yep.
I think that's what I'm probably strongest at.
Like when you say brand building, like creating the whole package.
Yeah. Like, gosh, like what's the music playing in the bar? Like that is all as much of the brand as, what are the wall colors? What are the chopsticks look like? What color are they? Like there's so many components to a brand that a lot of times people think branding, they think logo.
Yeah.
And a logo is just a component of the brand.
Right.
Right. Like a brand is like a language that a company speaks,
It's a feel. It's like
an emotive thing. It's what does it smell? I mean, that's why I love hospitality, like hotel. Like I would love to brand a hotel. Like what does it smell like when you walk in? What are the plants? What does that say about the space and the brand? And like, what are the pots that the plants are in? Like what's the tile choice? What's the, like everything matters.
Yeah.
And it's all sort of running in the subconscious with people, right?
Yeah.
I just love that stuff.
The details, man.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
Yeah. That's because I'm like thinking about that and like, how do you get yourself into something like that? Because like right now, what do most people hire you for? Like
branding, packaging. Yeah.
Like, but if you were going to grow into that, like, so let's take that hospitality thing. If you were going to do a hotel, do you have a vision of like putting yourself out there to like, you know?
I've never, it's funny because I've never actually like, I don't know. And I probably should like create a list, top 5 industries and or clients that I want to work with and go after them.
Yeah. And here's what I would do for them.
Yeah. And like, is there a way that I could sort of like put something together? How could I chase them down and like get on their radar? I should probably do that.
Yeah.
I have a friend, a photography friend, Caleb Kerr, who's actually.
I know Caleb.
You do?
Yes. He used to work out with me at the gym.
No.
Yes.
So, but he's a pro at hunting people down and like getting them to hire him. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, he's done such big projects.
Yeah. And it's fun to watch him sort of like just put himself out there and find the right people and just hammer it until they're like, all right, we gotta hire this dude. Like, he's all over it. I should do that. I would talk to Caleb.
So again, like the thing that I want to learn from like you, or somehow to like if I could like steal something from your brain, is like, that's the stuff that I feel like I'm lacking, but a lot of people are lacking, is like how do you conceptualize a total package down to the little details and then like execute it at such a high level? Like to me, I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it, but when I see how talented you are at it, like, of course I want to see you. I want to see you get that hotel because I want to see what the fuck you do with it. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go to that hotel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would.
You know, it's funny. I've started using this term lately, or it's not a term, but it's a concept, right? It's like you have method actors, right? Who like become the character. And I think there's a lot of times where I'm in this room and it's like, I try to be method in design, right? Like if I'm working on something that needs to feel otherworldly or super forward thinking or, you know, on the fringe, I try to like fill the room with music that feels very fringy, or it like basically create that energy and that environment in here that puts me in that headspace that gets me to the place where it's like, you know, passing through all the ideas that don't fit with the energy that's in the room, right? So if I'm working on, I don't know, something maybe that's a little more outdoorsy or wants to be a little more homespun, the energy in here needs to be that in a way, right? And so I need to like feel what it is. I had a mentor, David Campa. He used to always tell us, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It's got to feel, you gotta feel, it needs to feel right. And like, that's a very non-technical, that is not very technical feedback. Right. That is very like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
but you know it when you feel it.
You feel it. It's like, and you know, I told my students this semester is like, design with your gut, design down here. Don't design up here, right? Like all of the thinking should be done at another time and place. But when you jump into design, you got to be going from your gut and not your brain. Right? And so when the right colors click into place or the right sort of combination of elements hit, it like hits you in a way that's like, that's something's there, you know?
Yeah. They say your gut is a second brain.
I believe it.
Yeah. And like,
100%.
So when you say, like, when you make the distinction between your gut and your brain, what do you feel like what's different between those?
Call it like being good at bullshitting or whatever, but like there's oftentimes where your gut knows it's the right answer before your brain does, right? So it's like, okay, that's the right answer. I can feel it. Again, whether it's typography or just whatever the right treatment is, oftentimes you feel it in the gut and then you have to let your brain catch up and be like, okay, well, why, you know, the next day or a couple days later, like, why does that feel good? Like, why do I love this so much?
Yeah.
And you have to like let your brain catch up and like rationalize like, oh, I bet it's because, you know, the positioning and the personnel, all the strategy work that's been done tells me this list of things. And now that I try to cross reference them, they're actually matching up really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're like going into design and you're trying to use your brain and you're like thinking too much, it like, it really hinders you. You start self-editing, you start like getting too thoughtful,
Yeah.
versus just like what feels good, what feels good, what feels good,
It's so interesting because that's we go through our lives like that. A lot of us. And so like your medium is like you mentioned, brand and design and art, right?
Yeah.
But all of us go through our lives like doing our thing. And we oftentimes, like you said, get too much in our heads. We think too much and we really know the answer. Like a lot of times we go against because we're probably thinking what other people are going to think, or are other people going to like this, or like, is this crazy? There's this whole other level of evaluation of a concept or idea.
Well, there's so many like external forces. But when you start talking about life,
yes,
it's like we're living in a construct,
uh-huh.
right? Like we've invented all of this.
Right.
None of this is real.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And so like you start trying to like abide by the construct and follow the rules or do the thing or follow the path that you're supposed to follow and all this shit. And it's like, sometimes that just doesn't add up with what you want or what you feel you need to be doing or
yes.
Right. And so, man, there's nothing that hurts me more than to watch someone not living the exact version of the life they want to be living.
Yeah.
It's hard. That is the hardest thing to watch.
Yeah. We all know people like that.
I think we've probably all been those people.
100%. Yeah.
Right. So feeling like I'm on the other side of that, it's like, man, there's a better way. Like you really can like follow what you want to do and like be happier than ever,
Yeah. Do you think that's why you choose art? Like, because part of art, and I'm not an artist, but I'm thinking that part of art is breaking the rules. Like part of what makes someone's art desirable to other people is that it's
all fucked up, or
it isn't like anything else,
yeah.
and it purposely betrayed what
aesthetics.
common, all those other things, and because it's such an important thing to you. Is that why you choose art, or like?
Gosh, man, I think it's funny. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, like, I fucking hate rules. I hate them so much.
Yeah,
and it's like it's funny. I'm like recalling these moments in like adolescence in high school and stuff where it's like threading that needle of being a good kid and like making sure that the teachers knew I respected them, but also really not fucking listening to them.
Right.
It's like they liked me, but I really got on their nerves. There's like that fine balance of like, okay, I can't take it too far because then they're not going to like me anymore.
Right.
But I mean, like that's just like a really specific example. But I mean, I think of like, I grew up feeling very pent up. Like I couldn't be the version of myself that I always wanted to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so feeling so bottled up through adolescence and teenage years. And once I finally sort of left home and like really figured out what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be, like I just went all in, man.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why I'm covered in tattoos now. It's like, I wanted to be this person, this specific person for so many years, but felt like I couldn't be.
Mm.
And I, like shit, man, I'm almost 40. I'm still becoming that person. You know what I mean? Like I still feel like I'm blooming, so to speak.
I think about that a lot because I remember when I first met you, and I think I probably, that period that you just talked about, you were probably like just coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I like now looking back, I didn't feel it probably then as much, but knowing you now and then knowing you then, I did feel like this, like a bit of tension in you, right? Like there was this level of like, there was something inside of you like wanting to come out and you were like trying to figure it out. And like, so the way I experience you now versus the way I experienced you 15 years ago is in the same vein, but different. And,
it is. It is different.
Do you feel like a different person?
Completely.
Yeah.
I feel like a completely different person than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope that I always feel like a different person.
Yeah.
A year from now, But but yeah, I mean, like, it's just to go back. It's like there are all these constraints and elements happening around us at all times. Like the way you were born, your parents, your relationship with other people, your family, all this stuff. It's like that all has this wild impact. And it's like, it takes a long time and you really have to focus on, like, you have to think about it a lot. Like, who do I really want to be?
Yeah.
Like, I am not happy.
Yeah.
So why?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because talk about rules, right? Like your family has like rules. There's the neighborhood you grew in, the city.
Who are you expected to be?
Yeah.
Like, who are the people around you? What is the culture you're raised within? Like, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
And to defy that takes courage.
To defy it, like, on every level, right? Like, whether it's religion or, the way you dress, or, I can remember wanting earrings forever. I can remember wanting earrings.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I was 30 that I actually was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm getting earrings.
Yeah.
And fuck it. I might be too old to do it, but fuck it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just going for it. You know what I mean? And like, that's really liberating.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And it's liberating to see it too.
Yeah.
Like, I think the people who I appreciate the most, like when I'm leading other people, or like when I'm like trying to mentor other people, one of the things I tell them is like, because a lot of us try to go along to get along. We try to be agreeable. We're people pleasing.
Sure.
And that's just fucking like boring. It's like, it's not like, so to experience someone trying to be that way versus like, I love when someone tells me, no, I'm not doing that. Or no, that's like,
right. Why would I do that?
I think that's ugly, or whatever it is. Like, I love when people are disagreeable.
Yeah.
Even when it's at me or towards me, because that's when I like appreciate the individuality, that like who they are as a person.
It's funny. I've kind of always, man, you're bringing up these big questions. It's like, I feel like I've always been that person that's gone around with my middle fingers up a little bit, even though like I wasn't really when I was younger. But like, I've never had my middle fingers up more than the past like 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's
and
that
like
about?
and I don't mean like in a dickish way, but just like, life's short, man.
Mm-hmm.
Get one chance.
Yep.
Like, why not? Why not just be the fullest version of yourself? Be exactly what you want to be when you want to be it immediately. Immediately. Death is imminent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I always text that to my buds when they're I'm trying to make a decision. Death is imminent, man. Like, that's it. Like, that's the driving force. You know what I mean? And like, I think, I had a big moment about 2.5 years ago where I had a complete existential meltdown, and it was like, it felt like a complete split in the road where it's like, I'm either going to like figure this out, or I'm just destined to like kind of just trudge through this shit life, just kind of, and I just was like, chose to say fuck it and like do exactly what I wanted. And like, it's been the best.
Yeah.
Well,
because you said, you've never been happier.
Yeah. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And it's like not until you completely like give in and just do it, just jump for it. It's not until you completely like go that like things start falling into place. I mean, it's like, this is my 4th time being self-employed.
Right.
In my career.
Yeah.
This is the only time that it's really succeeded. And it's like, it's because I jumped off the cliff and it was like, I am not looking back. I am not going back to agencies. I'm fucking doing this. I'm getting my own space. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And like all in, and once that energy is there, that momentum of like, I mean, that's what it takes.
Yeah. And like what I'm hearing you say is like letting go. If you're like putting your middle fingers up and you're saying, fuck you, it's like, it sounds to me what you're saying is like, fuck you to fear. Like, I am not going to be because what do we go back to agencies for? What do your version of agency? Sure. What do we jump to safety for?
Right.
To be safe.
Right.
Because we're afraid, because sometimes fear dominates us.
Fear, I think, expectation, right? Like, these are the expectation that society has for someone.
Okay.
Right. it's just so ridiculous to hold everyone to the same standard.
Yeah.
You know,
Cause like, so expectation, are you saying that like in your career field, the best and brightest, the people who are the most talented, do they typically kind of like end up at an agency or something like that?
I suppose. I mean, when I hear you say that, it's like, not necessarily. They're like, they'll go off and like run their own studio and, you know, have, you know, designers working under them and all of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure to be like a part of a studio, I don't know, like it just never was my thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to make it my thing for so long. And was never really happy, you know, it made me act out. It made me do wild shit because I was like revolting, you know what I mean, against the enterprise, right? Which that's not healthy either. You know?
Right. So is that what it is about being at like in a group, in an agency, in an organization? Is it the group think?
No, man, it's funny. I've just kind of uncovered this in therapy. It's like, and man, it's funny. I find myself even wanting to caveat it, but fuck it. Like, it's all about control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm like, I need control.
Yeah.
Like, I need control over everything.
Okay.
I need control over the way this fucking room smells. I need control over the music that's played, the lighting. I need control.
Yeah.
And I need control over how the assignment is run, what is said. I need control, period.
Yep.
And so to work with others in that capacity, like you can't control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of angst that would create for me, it was like super unhealthy. Like it started coming out in other aspects of my life, and like just feeling out of control is not something that I do well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like even like, you know, my wife can attest to this. It's like, if the house is messy, I feel out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I try to do is gain control. I start cleaning. Right? Like I need control over this situation because it's out of control and I don't do well with that.
Yeah.
And so really the jump into like what I do now is like, it's just me in this room, man. And I can close those blinds and I control it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where I just like, I thrive there.
Yeah.
You know, and like I've had people like, oh, you should hire, you could take on more business if you had. It's like, I don't want that. The control starts slipping away. You know? And maybe that's something that, like, again, I find myself wanting to caveat that, like it's a bad thing. But that's just what it's matter of factly how I operate and the feelings I have.
Yeah.
Right? So,
well, I think you can look at it two ways, right? Like you'll hear people say, you'll hear somebody say something along the lines of, you've got to let go of control, or you can't control anything, or control is an illusion, or, there's all these different sayings about it. That's one way to look at it. Like you can practice letting go.
Sure.
Or another way is that you can create an environment that works for you, that's healthy for you, that's healthy for your family, that, like you said, that you can thrive in.
Right.
And and that it helps you to be the best you can possibly be.
I think that's a good point. I think that's a good way of framing it, right? It's like wanting all of the control is a bad thing if you let it get away from you. You don't acknowledge that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Because then you start becoming unhealthy to other people. You start becoming unhealthy to your family and other, because you don't have control. So like acknowledging it, accepting it,
mm-hmm.
and then setting yourself up into space that's like, I'm going to thrive in the situation and I'm not going to hurt anyone.
Right.
I'm not going to hurt my family. I'm not going to hurt my coworkers, my friends. I'm not going to lash out and say dumb shit and let my angst manifest in weird ways.
Right.
Right. It's like, it's kind of taking control. It's like, all right, like these are the elements. These are the things I need to be able to live a happy life, a healthy, happy life. So let me construct that.
Yeah.
I put myself in a place where I'm happy and healthy and kind to others.
Right. Because like if you look at it, like you can assess yourself, and like we all have our thing. Everybody's got their version of what you're talking about. So you can take inventory of that and take ownership of it. I think rather than saying, anything else that's out there, like I recognize this about myself. I'm owning it. I'm putting it out there. I'm speaking it. I tell you about it, and I'm going to use it to my advantage rather than let it be something that helps me, that makes me spin out or spiral out.
Totally.
You know?
Totally. And so, it's only been till recently that I've like uncovered that and dealt with that and like embraced it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like knowing I need these foods to feel good the next day, but not eating them.
Right.
And then feeling like shit. And you're like,
Right.
God, I know I need to just be eating these other foods, but I'm eating these other foods and I feel like shit. And like, it's like, what, I don't know, man. It's like knowing what you need.
Yeah.
Like
you said, it's like taking something that could be perceived as negative and then turning it, like flipping it into something good. Like you found, in my opinion, what better field to be in, better industry to be in when you realize that you like the details, that you like to control the pieces of it and have like full ownership of it than something like branding or something like art. It's
right.
You found your place, man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a micromanager. It's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, I was a director at 3 different studios and like, it wasn't fun. I did not have fun. It wasn't my thing.
How did other people experience? Did you ever get feedback about you? Did people perceive you in a negative way because of that?
No, I like bottled it up pretty
you didn't
well.
let it out. Okay.
Right.
Which is probably why you
exploded.
Yeah, of course.
Totally. But I also found this place in me where it's like, I think in order to get this work to the level of polish it needs to get at, these things need to happen. But like, I don't want to like be a micromanager.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So finding myself in a place where it's like, I'm just sort of like compromising the work because it's easier than dealing with it. It's like, oh yeah, this is good. This is great. Fine. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Right.
So did you feel like the stuff you were supervising was like not to your standard, but you kind of just let it go because
some of it was great.
Yeah.
Some of it lesser than, but it's like, again, it's like there's so many people involved and it's just like kind of a mess. And I don't know, man. It just, I didn't thrive. It didn't make me happy.
Yeah. So being a business owner, having been in situations where I think I might be the opposite of you, right? Like where I don't want to be involved in the details. Like I don't want to control it. I like to, like from a high level, like have my part in influencing or giving some vision to or something like that. And then sending it out and letting it go. I really do let go of outcomes and results. And so we're talking about the same thing, just in different situations where like I spun myself out by trying to be in, like really trying to control everything and trying to be the identity of my business. So that
wasn't healthy for you.
It wasn't healthy for me.
Right.
And so the important part, and I think hopefully for anyone listening to this, is to like know where you fall and, to just become aware. To wake up to who you are and accept it and own it and then take care of business.
I think like self-discovery is by far and away the biggest thing any human could do.
Yeah.
Like what makes you tick?
Yes.
Why? And as soon as you sort of lay that all out and feed that, like I think that's where happiness, success, like contentment.
Yes.
I think that's where that stuff comes from.
So with self-discovery, do you have things that you do or have, I guess, so you mentioned like, obviously you're growing all the time. You're a different person than you were 2 years ago. Like, are there things that you make sure that you do to become intimately involved with yourself and become aware of yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I go to therapy.
Yep. You mentioned
all the time.
That. Yep.
Every other week. And then my wife and I go to couples therapy once a month.
Yep.
So there's lots of introspection there. But like surrounding myself with people that like are fruitful and heady and deep and you can have good conversation with. I think that's super important. I think just to use this analogy again, I went years and years knowing what I wanted to feed myself, right? I wanted to be a person that read more. I wanted to read more. I wanted to write more. I wanted to meditate. I wanted to like wake up early. I wanted to, like, there was a litany of things that for years I wanted to do and be and didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like knowing I needed to be eating these foods, making the choice not to eat them, just to completely ignore that and do whatever else. And years of that, you know, until finally, like, you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so had this experience where, you know, complete breakdown, left my job like on the spot, kind of just disappeared, and started going to therapy again. You know, discovered I was very depressed and had been for decades. Sought help for that, you know. You know, it's funny, they say like, yeah, suicidal thoughts. And it's like, you never really put much thought into what that means.
Yeah.
And it's a very vague term.
Sure.
But I had that.
Yeah.
I had suicidal ideations and like thought about it quite a bit. So anyway, once I came to terms with like, okay, I am like not well. I got medicated for anxiety and depression. And then a good friend of mine, Angelo Keeley, he has developed this program where you basically go through this packet and it just helps you identify like, what do you want in life and what are the things standing in front of those things? Like what are the things preventing you from achieving those goals? So I went through this packet and that was super helpful. And I realized like, I need to be waking up at 5. I need to be stretching. These are the foods I need to be eating. I need to be reading. So every day starts with an aggressive 5 hours of like self-care. Like I don't get here I don't start working until 10:30.
Yeah.
And I wake up between 5 and 5:30.
That's awesome.
So the entire front part of my day, the first 5 hours is doing all the things that I need to do so that when I get here, there is zero distraction.
Yeah.
My mind is not like, man, if I can read today or I didn't exercise or didn't do this or do that. And it's like, it's keeping me like, I better leave here so that I can go do those things. I get here and it's like super focused and intense, you know?
Yeah. I cannot like emphasize that enough. Like I tell people all the time, like the people I know who are really struggling in their lives, there's something so fucking magical and powerful about a morning practice that I just don't think that enough people really understand like how just good that is for you.
The idea of waking up 10 minutes before I need to leave the house, not even me, anyone, like that is thrusting yourself into the day in a way that just, you're already behind. You're rushing to get dressed. You're rushing to brush your teeth. You're rushing to put food in your mouth. You're eating in your car. I don't know. You're just sort of behind the sort of wave the whole time, versus waking up early, prepping your body, prepping your mind, and then getting in the water and waiting for the wave and riding that wave.
Right.
Versus like being thrown in the water and the wave's there and
it's already drowning you.
Yeah. It's like,
you're like trying to not get smashed onto the coral, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, it takes a lot of commitment, man, to like wake up that early. You have to go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to like make sure that you're not, you know, drinking too much so that you can wake up. And like, it's mind, body, right? It's both, right? You have to like, and of course, the older you get, like you have to become tuned into what your body needs. But I think more importantly, probably what your spirit, what you need to like be a kind and productive person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. As you're kind of speaking, I'm thinking about like, we were talking earlier about the distinction between our gut and like our brain. And like somehow I'm like making this like, connection between like our, like who we, like our soul, like we are not our body.
Right.
We are not our brain. We are not our thoughts. We are not our ideas. We're something beyond that, you know? And so doing things that nurture and feed like who we are at our most core level, you know, and like we live in this body, we live in this meat suit,
right?
You know, but that is not who we are, you know? And so like, you have to do things that like really get to the core of who you are.
Yep.
And having a morning practice and
I am so ritualistic.
Yeah. You mentioned reading, writing. Like, what are the things that you like to, in that 5-hour period? What do you do?
I wake up. The first thing I do is drink warm lemon water because it seems like the most gentle thing you could put into your body after 8 hours of laying in one spot. And then I put the news on to the Sonos speakers, and I do like a 15-minute stretch routine, like a full body stretch out. Then I make my first coffee, and then I read for 30, 45 minutes. I wake my daughter up at 6 because she's very regimented too. And if I wake her up later, she's not pleased. And then get her some food. We spend some time together. I continue to read. I take her to school. I come home. I exercise for an hour. By that time, my wife's up and moving around. And then, we spend a little time in the morning hanging out, make my breakfast, make my lunch, supplements, get ready to leave the house. I leave the house by, 9:30. I'm here. I meditate when I get here,
Yeah.
And then after my meditation, I always tell myself, me first. What do I want to do? Like, what's going to get me excited? So if there's a personal project that I'm working on, or if I want to collage, or if I want to make art, I do that first before anyone else, clients, anyone, me first.
Yeah.
Even though I've just spent like 4 hours on me, but still
yeah.
And so once that is out of the way, then I feel like the slate is clear and I have space for other people.
Yeah.
And I think that it's what led me to like such a dark place, was like never putting myself first.
Yeah.
Ever. Always just saying yes, and always just paying attention to other people's needs, whether it was my job or whoever else, before my own.
Yeah.
And that's a bad idea.
I've absolutely spun out so many times by my nature, and people who've listened to every episode of the show, I probably bring it up every episode, is people pleasing. Like I put everyone before me. And that's just a quick recipe for me to.
And it's funny you say that. Like, to go back to the comment that I said, like, I've never walked around more with my middle fingers up than the past 2 years. And I think that's more what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is that I've been putting myself and my own needs first. Like, I gotta be good.
Yep.
If I'm not good, then like I can't be anything better to anyone else. So I think that's at the core of what I mean by like me first.
Yeah.
That's really, yeah.
Like, there's this power, like when like people who are, we all know people who are disagreeable for just because they like to be like disagreeable, just to like go against the grain. But then you see there's a different kind of person who is healthily somewhat disagreeable. And also self-centered in a way that's not negative to other people. Like there's two different kinds of people. Right. And you know them when you meet them.
Sure.
And it sounds like you're really developing yourself to become that second one, fingers up to everybody else, but not because I don't like you or because I don't want to do anything for you, but because I want to be my best for you. I want to bring my best to this world. I want to be about something.
It's also really interesting too, as it relates to other people, is like, I just told you my morning routine. I come here, I work. I don't have much of a social life.
Yeah.
I don't hang out very much.
Yeah.
And I don't have the desire to at this moment.
Yeah.
To really have much of a social life. Like, I'm focused right now.
Yes.
And like, I'm sure at some point, like, and not to say that I don't hang out with folks, but not that much.
Yeah.
And I don't make it a priority.
Yeah. You keep it limited. What's that about for you? Like, what do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty introverted to begin with, right? Like, I like being alone.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. That's a really good question. I feel like I had gotten to a place in my career where I was a personification of myself, and felt like every day when I went to the office, I had to like be this version that everyone expected me to be. And I would do that. And like, I'm just not there anymore. Like, I don't want to be something that I'm not. And if I don't want to go to a bar and have drinks all night, like I'm not going to do it just to like please other people, or like, oh, they're expecting me, or I'm going to let them down or whatever. And obviously like the pandemic maybe has like helped with that.
I was
or
about
like,
to say, some people have been living their best lives.
but like I've been so focused the past 3 years, and like on my family, on my work, on my art, on myself. And like, it's almost like you get to a point where you're grooving and you're really fucking scared to change anything.
Yep.
It's like, man, I'm scared to throw variables in here because this shit feels good.
Yep.
And like, I don't know. There's only so much energy, and it's like, I don't have much left.
Yes.
At the end of a day to give to social activities. I just don't.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's not, I'm not like, oh, poor me. Like, I wish I had, like, I don't wish I had
No,
more
you're
time.
good with it.
I'm good. I'm fine. You know?
Well, and it goes back to the other thing, the awareness of that, like it comes to awareness. I actually read this great book by Anthony DeMello called Awareness, and it like blew my mind. And I need to read it again. But it really does come down to that, right? Like, you have done the work to be aware that this is what helps me to be this is where my best comes from. I will probably say something different. I am more social in nature.
Sure.
If I were alone all the time, I'd probably be miserable.
Right.
But the difference is not that one is right or wrong.
Right.
It's just becoming aware of it. Because like in my situation, I would probably feel like at my worst if I were isolated or like not feeling like I was connected to other people.
Yep.
And so I just think that people need to be, not enough people are doing that level of introspection to like figure out which one they are.
Self-discovery thing, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I cannot stress that enough. And just being okay with whatever that is, right? Like, I've gone off for a year and I've really dug and searched and uncovered who I am. Now I've got a choice. I can either be that and facilitate that, the realness, or I can like, and some of that might require change, right? Like, okay, I know what I need now. I'm going to make these changes. What will other people perceive? What will they think?
Yeah.
How will they feel about me once I do make these changes? And I would venture to say that probably a lot of people are scared to make those changes, or, and fuck, man, some of that change might be like, you know what? I have to leave my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or I've got to like change my life pretty dramatically to be a happy person.
Yes.
And again, you're faced with that decision. Do you do it or not? So, I mean, self-discovery is key, but also the follow through of like, once you discover, implementing that.
The courage.
Right? The courage to be like, all right, if I really see myself happy, like I've got to like fan that flame, and what do I need to do that? You know?
It goes back to the thing we said all the way at the beginning is like, okay, get out of your head, don't overthink it, listen to your gut,
right,
and pull the trigger.
That's right.
And do it. And some, like you said, sometimes it happens with relationships, it happens with jobs, it happens with all different kinds of things I knew how many times in my life, I'm just speaking about me, have I known in my heart of hearts, I got to do this one thing and I didn't fucking do it because of exactly what are people going to think about me? How am I going to pay my bills or whatever it is? And then 10 years later, I kicked myself in the ass because I end up doing it anyway, but it took me 10 years and now I'm like, I suffered
10
for
years
all that
farther.
time.
Yeah. Down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think that's powerful. I know you're teaching now. You mentioned that you're teaching, which goes a little bit against what we're talking about now, because now you're kind of responsible for the education and learning of other people. So like, what's that experience like for you? And
it's been wild. Well, first off, it makes me so grateful that I am like this far into my career and I'm not a student anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it makes me super grateful for like the progress I've made, because I went to the school. I went to Texas State.
Yeah.
Like I graduated from, I went to school there. So like to go back into that building and to then be a teacher, it's a wild experience. But it makes me recall, like, it's like looking at myself, looking at my college self and like being super proud of myself for like, man, you did it.
Yeah.
Like, you did it. Way to go.
Yes.
You were in this,
Because they are you.
yes, they are.
They are you.
They are me. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, I try to, it's funny. The thing that I find most rewarding about it is not like teaching, technical skills. Like, here's how to use the Bezier tool best in Illustrator, whatever. Like that shit, you can YouTube that to, if you really wanted to learn that. The thing that I get the biggest kick out of is like teaching the students how to deal with their emotions, right? And how to like, because that was my biggest struggle when I was in school and my first, 5 to 10 years out of school. It was just like the emotional toll that combining art and commerce, trying to make a living doing art, had on me. And so, I always try to empathize with them, read their faces, read the torment they're going through. Like, you are stuck and you are frustrated and you want to give up. I get it. I've been there. I still do that. Like that. And then seeing the look on their face, like change, like,
yeah,
for real?
Yeah.
Like, really? I'm supposed to feel this way? It's like,
Yeah.
Yes, dude, it's fine. Everything's going to be okay. This is hard. And just letting them know, like, you're not supposed to be good yet. You're a student.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Yeah.
You go around in your world and you look at professional design work. You don't know who's behind it or how much work it took to get that stuff into the world. And you're comparing your work to that. And that's not fair.
Yeah.
So it's more of the like, I don't know, the more emotive
Yeah. The
component,
mentorship.
the human aspect of like, you're human, I'm a human, we both do the same thing. Like, let me try to teach you a few things and not about software,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that at least that's what I feel like I have to offer students.
Yeah. So that's what you're giving them. What do you get out of it? Like, what do you feel like you're getting out of teaching?
Man, I have this, it's funny. There's a lot of times where I feel like what I do is very pointless. Like,
as a teacher or as a
professional.
Uh-huh.
Like, it seems silly that I make money doing this.
Really?
And so, not that I feel guilty about it, but it is weird that what I do makes money. And so, I don't know, a few years ago, it was just like, how can I give back in some capacity? Obviously I'm not gonna like, quit what I'm good at that makes me and my family a good living to go be a social worker. Like, that's not my calling.
Sure.
But is there something that I could be doing that is paying it forward a little bit or enhancing someone's life other than like, making companies lots of money on a new packaging, so that was really the impetus of it. And so again, it's when those moments of like real connection happens when it's like, I can tell that like I've made them feel better or given them confidence. Like, just today I was leaving the classroom. It had been a relatively quiet work session type of class. And I was like, all right, folks, I'm going to split out of here. And I passed a student's computer and I looked on it and like what she had up was like really good. And I got to the door and I doubled back and I turned around and I went back and I said like, that's really cool. And she looked up and she was like beaming and I left. Right. Like it just made me feel like that fucking probably made her day to have the like the affirmation of like, oh, what I'm doing is maybe it is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not have to sit and like talk about it, critique it, but like, hey, that's cool. That's good. And leave it at that. Man, that's like, that feels like you're helping a person with their life,
Yeah. I love that. I'm a firm believer that all of us get to choose a purpose, and the purpose that we choose cannot be solely for ourselves. It's like, I think that, and so I love like, now even art, like you've talked about it, it's visual problem solving. It's obviously you're helping businesses and professionals and entities and whatever, like speak themselves to the world. So your work is still for the greater good. It's for other people. And, but I think sometimes people like you'll hear in certain industries or certain types of people are like, well, my purpose in life is to make as much money as I possibly can.
Right.
So I can have the cars and the boats or whatever else. And I'm like, no, man, you're missing it.
Well, and I mean, I think I've always tried to you're a perfect example, man. It's like when you were doing your boot camp.
Yeah.
It's like, you recognize the passion and the drive and the desire and other people and their mission and their thing. And it gets me excited to be like, man, I could help.
Yes.
Like I could help you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Which, by the way, what he's talking about is Karl designed my very first logo for my business. It's my favorite logo. The t-shirt that we first made with that logo is still my favorite t-shirt. So many people have just love that brand, and Karl designed it,
Well, and this is not at all to pat myself on the back, but it's like pro bono.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yes.
It's like, because you have a passion and you are I have the thing that is going to help you, and I've done that with a multitude of other people too, where it's like, I love being involved with people who are passionate about what they're doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I try when I can to help,
Yeah.
And that I think makes me probably feel best.
Yeah.
Moreover, any awards have won or whatever, it's like doing something for some other person that has allowed them to succeed. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I used to tell this to you all the time. It's like every time I'd go see you had a bigger gym and then a bigger gym and then and it was bigger and badder. And I was like, that made me so fucking happy.
Yes.
And I remember I was always telling you, man, I'm so fucking proud of you. This is awesome.
Yes.
Wow. That makes me so happy.
Yeah. Because that's that cannot be understood enough, that someone who, again, as someone who's a coach or a trainer or whatever, who has something that they want to do in the world, like having someone like you in their life, being able to hire you or for you to contribute in some way, because I'm not an artist. I can't put my feelings into a visual package, but you can. And that's so powerful. I mean, that's so powerful for people. And all these different, I'm looking around your studio and all these different people you've helped do that is just inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, it can be really rewarding.
Yeah.
It can be just soul sucking if you're not in the right environment, but it can also be really rewarding. I find the most reward out of helping tiny little businesses, be successful. That is so fun to me.
Yeah. Well, shifting gears a little bit. So you said that you read you try to read as much as you possibly can. What do you read? What are you reading right now? Or is there anything, or what have you read that you love? Or?
I went through a phase where I read all of Malcolm Gladwell, and that was great. I feel like I shouldn't have read them back to back because they all sort of he's got his thing.
Yes.
Sapiens.
Great book.
Read that.
Yeah.
And the second one.
I haven't read that.
Sapiens Deus.
Okay.
Worth reading.
Is it?
Wild. So Sapiens is a brief, Sapiens, a brief history of mankind, I think is what the full title is. And then the second book sort of starts from now and talks about the future.
Oh.
It's pretty alarming and pretty wild,
Okay. I loved Sapiens.
Biotechnologies and all this stuff. Really anything that, currently I'm reading, two of my best friends recommended this book, Letters from a Young Poet, Letters to a Young Poet, I think. It was essentially Maria Rilke. I don't know how to say his last name. Rilke was a famous poet in 1900. And he had this random younger dude write him letters who was also a poet and wanted feedback on his poetry. And so it just sort of catalogs this dialogue, and it's the heaviest, deepest, amazing. I feel like I sit there with my red pencil and just every morning I'm just oh my God, look at this thing and this line and that line. And most of the books that I read they're all pretty introspective. I'm reading, currently I'm reading, what is it? The Laws of Humankind.
Robert Greene? Oh, is it Robert Greene?
I think so.
because he also wrote, I thought you were going to say 48 Laws of Power.
Yes. So this is the second one.
Okay. Okay.
This
That's
is
Robert
sick.
Greene. Yeah.
Yes, Robert Greene. The laws of human nature.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
Uh-huh.
Like anything about humans and the way we tick and self-discovery and like, the struggle with, fuck man, just being a human on the earth. You know what I mean? Like that to me, like those are the best books.
Yeah.
Like that's what I like to read.
I think we're right in the same vein there. I think
sorry to interrupt. Like I suppose you could call them self-help books. Or maybe that's what they
I
used
never
to
know
call
what
them.
to call them either. I
But
think
it's
you
like-
find them in like the self-help section of a
Yeah,
bookstore.
yeah.
But I hate that term for some reason. I don't know
Yeah.
why I'm like,
I mean,
opposed
they
to
are
it.
very helpful to
Yes.
myself.
But isn't
but-
every book? But yeah. But I'm in this, like the human condition is just fascinating to me.
Totally.
And it's so complex, but at the same time, so simple.
Yep.
That it automatically, it's just something that's just fun to study. And, so,
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like, I can't imagine, I don't know, reading nonfiction. I used to read nonfiction when I did read.
you mean fiction?
Yes, I
Yeah.
used to read fiction
Yeah.
before, but like the past few years, I've just like kind of left fiction all together. And like, I'm just totally obsessed with nonfiction, just like hacking human nature, like
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
But even the fiction I read, I bounce back and forth a little bit. Like I probably read 90% these nonfiction.
Yep.
But I'll sprinkle in some fiction. And even the fiction I like to read is still kind of an artistic take on
Uh-huh.
the same shit.
Sure.
Like I recently reread again The Long Walk, which was written, Stephen King wrote it when he was writing as Richard Bachman.
Uh-huh.
And all it is literally a book about these guys who go on this long walk, and there's a lot behind it, the details, but
Sure.
it's literally just about human relationships,
Right.
and
Yeah. You're just analyzing it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's his own kind of
Uh-huh.
dark take on that.
Uh-huh.
But it's super cool. I read a ton too, but the same thing as you, I have a part of my morning practice is reading.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I
You know
love
what
it.
is a really great book? I think there's two of them. Are you familiar with The Moth?
No.
So The Moth is, it was a kind of a spoken word concept where people would get on stage and tell stories,
Okay.
right? Like
Yeah.
real stories.
Yeah.
The person, and so you had to like submit your story and they would accept you and then they would help you sort of develop your story and then they would sort of travel around the country and these people would get on stage and just tell like a 10-minute story. And it was great. And it was all about storytelling.
Yeah.
But it was this thing you could only see live. Well, they've released 2 books a few years back. And again, it's just short stories. It's like little books, but it's like, 25 short stories. And, I never cried so much fucking reading.
Something about
it's
short
just-
stories.
Yeah, because they're so concise and they're
Yes.
simple and you can tell that they're all, and I think the foreword actually sets it up like these were told live, but we've actually worked with these storytellers to help compose these stories to read well on the page. And like, God, man, like some of them are only like 3 pages long and they're just like thick. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like just so
The
good.
Moth. So what I try to do is list these in the notes of every episode.
Uh-huh.
So for anyone who's listening, we'll
Yeah.
put them in the notes.
But what you were talking about, it's kind of fiction, right? There's like stories that you're reading, but they're all real. And it's all about human experience, and some are funny and some are heart-wrenching, and it's just I encourage people to read
and like
those.
and that's the thing about books anyway. It's like they're written by humans. So even
Right.
books that are like about anything, finances, right? It's still a human writing that, and you get some introspection into, you get some insight, I should say, into like who they are and like the human brain and the human experience and
Mhm.
all that stuff. And so it's just another form of like, I love visual art,
Mhm.
but the written form is also just like something I really appreciate. So, well, and we could probably sit here all day and
could.
talk, which we're long overdue for catching up like this. But was there anything you thought I was going to ask you about that like, if you were, sometimes people kind of in their head think, oh, he's definitely going to ask me about this thing, or was there anything that you like were preparing yourself to talk about that we didn't talk about?
No, man. This is what I kind of expected.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's awesome.
I don't know that there was anything that I'm like, I can't believe he didn't ask me about that.
Yeah. Well, for the audience, I highly recommend you checking out Gold Lunchbox on Instagram. If you want to see some amazing art, some stuff that you will blow your mind, Karl's Instagram is just, you'll get a little bit of an insight to the talent, but also to the real skill that he has. So check that out. Where else can they find? Is that like the best place to kind of, your website is also sick.
goldlunchbox.com.
Yeah. Goldlunchbox.com. Also, you'll see, do you do your website still? I remember back in the day you were doing your own website.
Yeah.
So like the level of, you'll get an idea what he was talking about earlier about like owning and controlling the details like through that website. So go check that out. But man, I just want to thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like just being someone who's really special in my life. You've been a running thread of someone who I just have like really care about a lot, and I just really respect what you're doing and how you approach life. And so thank you for being on the show. And I know everybody's going to get a lot from you, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate this. This is great. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's we don't hang out enough.
No, we don't. But now I know
we say that
we
every
probably
time.
hang out the right amount that, we probably hang out
probably
the
why
right
you don't
perfect
see me much,
amount.
man.
Yeah. So
I hide under rocks.
so all right, well, that's a wrap. Have a good night, everybody.
All right.